All right, House Knows Homes, House Knows Football. We're taking it to the house. This segment brought to you by Tim Collum, his group.
Over 20 years selling houses.
Right.
He knows what he's doing.
Knows what he's doing.
That guy knows what he's doing.
Getting a lot of calls, too.
Yep.
Speaking of getting a lot of calls, this guy, our fantasy expert, Leo Shved, is here. Leo, how are you on this fine day?
Right there.
Gentlemen, the playoffs are here.
Yes,
I'm doing fantastic, and it's always great to see you guys.
Always great to see you, buddy. All right, so he's fresh off a... kind of a disappointing day, not just because of like parking woes and other things that he struggled with when he went to see his Bears play the Niners, which, by the way, best weather game.
Oh! You know, I was hoping I was going to sit behind the visitors. I was going to take my shirt off, get some sun. It was so hot there. That was the only good thing about it. The weather was amazing.
And Leo, that's where we want to start. Talk about, as people are now approaching the playoffs with their fantasy football teams, how do we need to be factoring in weather?
Well, weather is one of those things that can really produce a dud, right? And so injuries are another factor. You can't control injuries, but you can scout the weather. And so one of the things that I always recommend people do is go to NFLweather.com prior to the game. Make sure you understand these factors that I'm going to talk about, because there's rain, there's wind, and then there's the cold. And when it comes to rain makes throwing and receiving the football more challenging, which is mostly going to impact your quarterbacks, your running backs, your tight ends, and then your receiving running backs. Quarterbacks with small hands really struggle in the rain. Brock Purdy really struggles in rainy conditions. Wind is another thing. So wind at or above 15 miles an hour makes throwing the football more challenging. So it also depends on the quarterback's arm strength. So with like a guy like Josh Allen, who's got a super strong arm, he's not going to struggle as much as Baker Mayfield at the lower wind speeds. But wind speeds of 25 to 30 miles and higher are going to stop any quarterback. It doesn't matter who you are. And that's going to obviously, again, impact your quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, and receiving running backs. Now, temperature, when it gets really cold, gets into the 10s or lower, right? Then that's going to negatively impact any skilled position player in scoring, including the kickers, because really hard to kick a rock hard football when it's that cold. So you want to stay away from games in 10-degree weather or lower. And lastly is snow. Snow really is actually very advantageous to scoring, because running backs and guys with the ball in their hands, they know where they're going, and so that really gives them an advantage, whereas the defense is playing on snow. They don't know where the guys are going, so it's really hard to make cuts, and that really doesn't impact scoring as much, especially from a running perspective in the snow, unless there's high winds.
Wow.
How about
look at him analyze everything, breaking down wind conditions.
Meteorologist. We didn't even know he was a meteorologist. He's an attorney. He's a fantasy expert.
Right.
The dude now is a meteorologist.
We need to bring in Jean-Vieve so we can talk about the jet stream and everything else that's happening. Wow, it's amazing. All right, we got to get to teams that are maybe now tanking. Now, I think maybe the Bears might be doing that, but you think the Raiders could be doing that, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're talking about descending teams, there's certain teams that you have to be weary of. And if you want to talk about descending teams first, since you brought up the Raiders, they are in full-on tank mode. Atlanta's another team. They've got a favorable schedule, but it just looks like they've lost their momentum. Jacksonville is another team that's got a great schedule, but they lost their quarterback. They're in dire straits. Miami and Minnesota, they've got tough schedules coming up. Actually, Minnesota more so than Miami. Miami, I just don't trust. New Orleans, no Derek Carr. They're going to struggle the rest of the year. And the Giants are obviously in tank mode. They want to get the second pick or the first pick and get a quarterback finally. The Jets are an interesting scenario because their ownership and front office people want them to tank, but Aaron Rodgers wants to win, so their interests aren't aligned. Pittsburgh's got a tough schedule. I could see them maybe going 500 the rest of the way, and Seattle as well. Now, the teams that are ascending right now are Carolina. They've got a good schedule. Cincinnati, I fully expect them to continue to play well. Green Bay, LA Chargers. Chargers have a great schedule, and the 49ers are not going to go away. They're a playoff team. They're going to fight to the death to try to make it to 10-7 or 9-8 and get that last playoff spot.
Ooh, that'd be amazing if they squeak in. Seriously, they're not out of it. Ooh. I love that.
I wouldn't want to see them. I wouldn't want to see the Niners in the playoffs.
Especially with Trent Williams getting healthy, too. I mean, getting Trent Williams back, a couple of those key guys back, still injured. Obviously, McCaffrey, Mason out, but Guerrendo showed.
But you have Andre Iguodala on your team as a running back.
Guerrendo. Stop it already. All right, Leo, give us some guys. I know it's late. We're heading into the playoffs. Pickups are always now. I mean, it's like, whoa, it's tough. But give us a few names we got to keep an eye on.
Well, Moki, first of all, I just want to touch on the fact that you said Trent Williams, because I believe Trent Williams he's the engine of the 49ers offense.
Agreed.
No Trent Williams against good teams, not a chance. But as far as free agents go, JAMEIS Winston is available. He's going to throw a lot of picks, but he's also going to put up yards and probably scores as well, because they're always playing from behind. And then, Russell Wilson and Drake May, quarterbacks. The running backs, Isaiah Guerrendo, you got to check for his the status of his foot. They're saying that he was out precautionarily, so that means that he's not really that hurt, but the Niners lie a lot, so you have to wait till game time to figure out whether they're Guerrendo or not. Yeah. Isaiah Davis from the Jets and Trey Benson are running backs you might want to look at, and then wide receivers are
it's part of the game.
THIELEN, KEON Coleman, if his wrist ever gets better, he's a talented guy.
Yep.
And perhaps Devon VELE or VELE for the Broncos.
All right,
I'm really upset that you just showed him that, because we are playing each other, Leo, in the playoffs. So I'm like trying to. I'm like, don't look.
So we're both in the playoffs in both of our leagues, which is good. We're going to be playing each other. But I'm going to leave you this one last question. Would you play Stroud against Miami, or would you play Donaldson against my horrible Bears? Because I have both quarterbacks, and I went with Donaldson last week and dominated.
Don't feel compelled to answer.
Wait, Donaldson playing who?
The Bears, and Stroud is playing Miami.
Wait, what's who's Donaldson?
Yeah, what quarterback?
I mean, Donald.
He's making up quarterbacks now.
Donald.
Oh my God.
Donald playing the Bears. Is that game in Chicago?
No, it's in Minnesota.
Oh, got it. And then the other one.
Stroud is playing at home against Miami.
Stroud, which is he's struggled.
Stroud, is he at home?
Yes.
He's not going to tell you. Don't tell him, because that hurts me, Leo.
I would say Houston's going to put up some points. I'm gonna. Houston and Miami are going to go up and down.
Oh no.
That's who I'm going to go with.
Oh, Leo.
I got so fired up, I'm calling him Donaldson.
Spoiled again. Appreciate you, man. I don't appreciate you giving him good advice, but he has to give good advice because that's what he does.
He's got to.
TimCollum.com is where you can find Tim Collum Realtor Group, house, real estate, 20 years or more of experience. Go check him out. Give him a call if you need a little bit of help.